Right now, I'm sharing my screen and I'm recording the screen also with OBS. I'm doing this because I've been thinking about how to make sure that I can stream to my followers or people inside of the community, which can be on Discord. And at the same time that I'm sharing my screen talking to them, I could have been on a call over here actually. I definitely could have set up a whole call. Let me see what that would look like. Need to get my other laptop. But it's alright. I'm not tripping too much about it right now. The main goal was to see how would I do it, what would it look like. Um, so yeah, at this point it's shared here. Let me turn this off. Stop stream. Let me see. Does it save the stream? Nah, it doesn't save it. It does not save the stream. But at the same time that I'm sharing over here, I wonder if they can hear me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Alright, the main goal for today is to actually diagram the architecture that I have for ToePro right now. I have the system in my production environment. I'm calling production, and I put quotes on it because production is just, it's also on the internet, but it's really just the environment that I want to keep the most pristine. Production is like, that's my best foot forward. And it should look like development because we should have tested everything beforehand, but it's not gonna always look like development because we may provide more resources. We're gonna have more load going into it. There are like for development, we can just keep the S3 bucket as our main. That's what we test against. But when we're testing on production, we're gonna have to hit uh, the cloud front destination. that destination is going to add more complexity for us because there may be a break between the cloud front destination and our bucket, our S3 bucket, that we wouldn't have had to worry about in development. But now that we're in production, there's a difference. And that difference can hide some sneaky problems that you really would not find out until it gets into production. So it might actually be better for me to keep development and production exactly the same. So if that is the case, I'm wondering if that's, oh, not even I'm wondering. What I was thinking about earlier is that when I document my infrastructure, which is the actual compute and data source or data store resources for my app, then I want to keep that separate. I want to have that in the same repository where I'm actually managing, configuring, and tracking the infrastructure. In this repository that we're going to get into in a moment, I am just tracking the application in its own isolated environment. So my application is just a piece of code. The infrastructure could be an S3 bucket. And that's what it is today. In the future, my infrastructure could be a Docker container, and or I would probably put the Docker to container as part of my application, and then the infrastructure could be something like uh, a Lambda or a I'm saying a Lambda, but I could run right now. My server is being handled by AWS. The code for the web app actually gets built and saved as a specific directory. So all of my files that are necessary to render the page, the JavaScript, the HTML, any type of CSS that's being used, that's all in static files, in static folders right now. And I've stored it on AWS S3 buckets. Those S3 buckets are just a server. Now the server has a I'm almost confusing two things. It's not that the server has anything. The server is serving web pages, those static files that I've uploaded to S3. And it is handling HTTP connections for me on my behalf. And those configurations for serving the files and connecting the server to those files and me being able to update those files, that's all being handled by AWS. I don't have to think about that. I just need to say, these are the files that I'm giving to you. Make sure when I hit this target, which is the bucket name, that you always give me those files that I stored inside of you. And it does something, or you can configure it to update the path, right? Or you can't actually. The path that AWS has kind of configured as the default is whatever path is on your S3 bucket is the same path that you're going to hit if you hit this endpoint. This endpoint being a domain, which is your bucket name, dot AWS, whatever their uh, main domain is, .com, which is the top level domain, right? It's going to translate that address, that target, into something that just hits my bucket directly. And it and I can configure it to serve web traffic so that, well, I think, is it hitting, well, let's look at it. because I'm seeing let's tool management system bucket. This is the address that I'm talking about. I don't even know if that's clear to see. View, zoom in. It's not even that. Uh-huh. Alright, you can see that a little more. That looks a little confusing. Where would I want to show this at? I'm thinking, and I didn't know I was still sharing my voice there. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I might as well just do the actual task that I started to do today. But I can even show it here. I don't want it to show like that. Give me the raw path. Mm-hmm. I wanted to make it big enough to see. So this path, if I hit that, it takes me to the main URL. Somehow, and that's because AWS is handling a lot of this for me. Let me look at the configuration for this system UI. Infrastructure setup. So, infra setup. Oh, it's setting up that stack. Yeah, we're creating a public data, public S3 bucket deployed via GitHub Actions. It's saying it takes a bucket name parameter and an environment. I was actually thinking about adding a UUID, at least 6 strings or 6 characters to the end of this string to make sure I could deploy any number of versions of this bucket and it wouldn't interfere with each other. Otherwise, if I'm just having one static name, it could potentially interfere with each other. The environment variable, which is either development or production, saying create this bucket with this type of name or with this name, create this resource type with this bucket name. Ownership controls, rules. This is just saying, do you want to... This is about permissions, ownership controls, bucket owner enforced. I'm pretty sure you could allow a role from an external account to specify the rules for this bucket. This is saying, no, make sure that only the owner of the account make sure that only someone inside of the account that owns this bucket or created this bucket can actually access this bucket or can configure those permissions. Encryption at rest. This is saying if someone accesses the server, will they be able to, or yeah, if someone gets access to the file system on the server, are they going to be able to just see everything in public text or clear text? Uh, this is the type of encryption. This is the type of encryption, server side encryption configuration. I'm pretty sure I could also use KMS to create my own key that can be used to encrypt this bucket. SE algorithm, AES. This is the type of key that I'm using to encrypt the data, or this is the type of algorithm that I'm using to encrypt the data. And that means I need to have an AES 256-bit key, which is pretty much a string with 256 characters. I'm pretty sure. Somebody should actually test me on that. Let me know if I'm making that up. Optional basic versioning. I actually don't need this on. Version I don't think I pay more for this, but I don't need it on right now. Basic versioning, and it's saying helpful for data assets. Yeah, that's cool if this was the data store for a database or something where I actually cared about the data. I'm already tracking the build. Mm, yeah, I'm already tracking the build. This potentially allows me to keep, mm, like, I could roll back a version fairly quickly instead of having to rebuild my web app. I could just say, go back to this version of the bucket, which is not bad. That might make it a lot faster to recover after something breaks. So that's not bad. But right now it's a little overkill because I haven't even defined that policy for what needs to be done when a problem occurs in production on the web app specifically. I'll leave it alone for today. Important for a truly public bucket policy to work. You must I must not do anything. Stop telling me what to do. You must allow public policies. This disables block public policy and restrict public buckets. Block public policy. Ignore public ACLs. True. Block public policies. The weird part is it calls it public policies, but the public policy says block all public uh, configurations. S3 bucket ACL public policy. I don't know what an access point is. I know what a bucket is, and I know what an entire AWS account is. Although I don't even understand the reference to say that someone can block. Oh, it's saying S3 block public access provides four settings. These settings are independent and can be used in any combination. Each setting can be applied. These settings are independent and can be used in any combination. Each setting can be applied to an access point, a bucket, or an entire AWS account. Okay, so I can set. It's not even showing me right here. Let's see if we can make the code better. Increase font size. Increase font size. Option. Capital. Period. Option. Capital. Period. It's playing with me. Yeah. The crazy part is I was actually looking at this through GitHub, but I can come over here and show you inside of the code. Oh, maybe I was looking over here because I see it highlighted. But these settings, block public ACLs, okay. These settings are what it's referring to as the four options that we can configure. And this is what I was describing before. Amazon S3, if you think about that as your big brother is saying to you, just give me whatever you want to share. Give it to me and tell me how you want to take care of it. And saying tell me how to take care of it as in, do you want me to block these type of people? Do you want me to block everything inside of your account from public access? Do you want to block a specific access point, or do you want to block a bucket? I think a bucket has an access point, but an access point doesn't have to be just a bucket. An access point could be I gotta get in there. Get in there. Yeah. Get in there. When I do all my secret squirrel stuff, I want y'all to look at me. Look at me while I do magic. I should be showing my hands, right? Y'all see somebody typing like this mad fast, y'all think he doing something crazy. Bro is saying nothing. Nothing at all. Sometimes it sound good though. It sound poetic. Da 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 da. Let me stop. Whoa. Bro, break it down. Bro, break it down. Break it down. Break it down. Break it down. Yo, nobody is paying me for my app. I'm about to shut that shit down. No cap. And it's not even about anybody paying me. I went about it the wrong way. I wonder if there's anyone using it that is gonna feel some type of way about me shutting it down. But that's when it comes down to y'all not paying me to keep it up anyway. Like if you wanted me to keep it, then not even if you wanted me to keep it, you should have started paying me. It's more like I fucked up. No cap. I made it too fast. Right now, I didn't even decide or create a way to keep track of what was going on. I have no observability and I have no income coming from it. At least I know it exists. So it's not like I could just forget about it. Or I could if I move forward and never look back. But I do sometimes take a little peek through the closet and see what I got in there. I got skeletons right now. I'm trying to finish them so they stop taking room that they don't need to take, alright? That's the real goal. Don't let skeletons stay in your closet if they making your life harder. Send them up. Send them back up. Or let me stop. Let me get in here though. Get in there. Get in there. I ain't gonna shut y'all down right now. I don't think that shit costing me no money. Let me actually check. Now that I'm thinking about it. This thing be getting me mad. It be telling me I don't got permission to see what's inside of this account. That's unacceptable. That's gonna make me shut it down. Shut down everything. Word. Word, no cap. All right, this is my bucket configuration. I have these objects, which are either files or folders, 12 in total. All of these have been generated by Flutter and GitHub Actions when I build my app. And yeah, all of them were configured that way through Flutter. And now I'm telling Big Bro that these are the settings that I want to have with this bucket and the data inside of this bucket. So if I make it bigger, boom, these are those policies. The block public access bucket settings. Public access is granted to buckets and objects through access control list, ACLs. Bucket policies, access point policies, or all. And this is saying that there's a combination of policies that are going to affect your ability to access this bucket or not, depending on who you are. It doesn't say that part, but those policies will also specify who and what they have. These settings apply only to this bucket and its access points. AWS recommends that you turn on all or block all public access, but before applying any of these settings, ensure that your applications will work correctly without public access. If you require some level of public access to your buckets or objects within, you can customize the individual settings below to suit your specific storage use cases. What does that mean? That is telling us you don't have to make it public, or you don't have to block all public access, but we recommend that you do. However, if you find that your application needs some form of public access, please do that. So for my application, I have block all public access off. Or I could configure these settings down here, which is block access to but the crazy part is, let me see. I block all public access, or block all public access is off. Hmm. I think these four correspond to these four. Yeah, I see block public ACLs, block public access to buckets and objects granted through new access control list. Block public access to buckets and objects granted through new access control list. S3 will block public access permissions applied to newly added buckets or objects and prevent the creation of new public access ACLs for existing buckets and objects. This setting doesn't change any existing permissions that allow public access to S3 resources using ACLs. Block public access to buckets and objects granted through any access control list, ACLs. S3 will ignore all ACLs that grant public access to buckets and objects. S3 will ignore all ACL, all access control lists that grant public access to buckets and objects. Block public access to buckets and objects granted through any access control list. That's old and new. This is only for new. The crazy part is I'm turning both of those on. Both of those are true. But I wonder what would make it true if I all feature. Okay, if I turn this on, I'm turning all of these on. Block all public access because if I turn all of these on, then I'm blocking everything. Because I have two of these off, I'm not blocking everything. And I'm also saying S3 is my server. S3 has given me an API and a UI to upload files to, and they will handle serving those files and how those files are served. And then I have a bucket policy down here that is saying allow anyone access to get the object and the resources inside of this. Or no, okay, no. Well, yes, I was right, but I wasn't clear in how I said it. This is saying this policy has one rule. It says allow any principal, so allow anyone the ability or action to get an object from S3 when the resource matches this name: tool management system public bucket and anything inside of it. So starting at the root directory. The root directory is then what we're serving. But if I come over here, yeah, my app by default is going to route you to this path. I think that is a setting of Flutter and not specifically AWS. Not even I think. I'm very sure that's a feature of SPAs or single page applications. You can, and if you're trying to have some type of paths or extra pages inside of your app, you have to specify that hashtag, because technically all of this application, all of this, every page is being served from the same root page. It's all being served from index. But the JavaScript magic inside of this Flutter app is saying, I'm going to look at the header in the page that I'm in, the header for, or the URL for the page that I'm in. And based on that header, I'm going to route the user. And I'm saying route. That's not the same, it doesn't have the same meaning for route as something like an API when it's saying it's routing someone. Not exactly. Not exactly. Because all of that is not true, we have it enabled. And then the index document we're saying is index.html. That has been configured and created by GitHub Actions when we run our Flutter build step. And this is the policy that I read that just says allow anyone to access this S3 bucket. And it just inputs it or outputs that. So now we have the bucket, it's public. Boom, we're good to go. And if I go back to my architecture diagram, we have that in here. The instance of the user interface that is accessible to clients via a browser. I don't think I need to say it's public because it doesn't have to be public. The development version of this UI is probably going to be private, actually. And I say, yeah, it's going to be private. So you're going to have some type of difference between development and production. You don't even want to have the same configuration for production as you do in development, because development, you are understandably not get, or you should not be giving too many resources to your application. You're not about to give a full cluster to development that has high availability settings and is always on. You don't need to do that. It doesn't need to scale to 1 billion users inside of development. That's unnecessary. It may need to scale to 1,000 users. So it's okay to give it just a smaller VM to run on, or a slightly more restrictive access policy, because you don't want everyone to be able to access your unpublished version of the code. So, should I be diagramming the published version, or the production version, or the development version? And should I, or if I should be doing one or the other, should I I'm gonna keep it very high level. I'm not even gonna go too in depth in that. I'm going to trust that my developers will be able to follow. That's a wild requirement to give people. No cap. To just know what you're doing instead of just being more clear. Right. Tool management system API. Tool management system UI talks to the API, and it talks to the identity pool. And That's pretty much it right now. I don't have to say where it's running. This is what it does. Or high level, this is what it does. And then I probably don't even have to say UI. Mm. All right, tool management system UI has a if we're looking at the library, it has the views, which are our top levels. Yeah, I want to show that it has our views. Which talks to our services. Pretty sure. Let me confirm. If I go to wherever I was getting that error at, I don't have any users. That's cat. I know I have users. Let me stop. I fake don't. I have clients. Tool management system. System. Oh no, so it's in users. Okay, let me sign up now. This public bucket is development, although it doesn't say development, which I probably should fix. Whoa. Let me see what you do to me. Can't you see what you do to me? Nah, this is crazy. What happened, man? What happened, man? Let me see. If nah, cause this is where it broke this time. So that's crazy. It works in development. It works in development to just create. Am I potentially... I can imagine that the API is different in development than it is in production. So let me check that. But it shouldn't be the case. It really should not be the case. It should be this simple. Views. Well, I was saying pointing at this, but I really meant this simple. Should be the web app is talking to the API, talking to the identity pool. I'm being anal now. I just want to move them around. Boom. Alright, we have the tool management service. Tool management system UI has the views, the controllers, service. I would say these are actually passing data from one to the other. I'm not doing it. I was going to add that utilities. They pull data out of here. That's not controllers. Our utilities. Our utilities. I think services should be tied to my business logic. Utilities should probably be tied to external dependencies. So utilities would connect to something like the identity pool. Identity pool. So it's pulling data, and I should update my controllers to use, I think everything might use utilities. Or, no, my views should only be accessible by the controllers. The controllers can pull data from utilities or from the service. The service is internal, utilities can be external. It could be system dependencies like using or calculating a date. It could be something like using the client's AI assistant or accessing some data off of the client. This is going to be more client specific, the utilities. And it can be how I switch between a cognito identity pool and an identity pool like Firebase auth. System identity pool. High level. Rename internal. Internal. Let me see. I want to put this inside of my code here. I want to see which branch I am on. Git checkout main. Pull. I think I got gcam. Gcam. Damn, I just realized. Alias. beautiful, 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 beautiful. It actually feels amazing to think back to when I was first learning the code and having trouble with some of the simplest tasks. Just figuring out how to run my code and how to get my IDE working so that I could actually see the code in a clear, readable format. I've came a very long way from back then. Being able to navigate a README or a code base and being able to say like, yo, I really did this, I did that. Like, I've come so far from where I started. It's amazing. It's very amazing. Understanding GitHub and what a PR is, what a commit message is, understanding the difference between a review and just a merge. Because right now I'm just merging. This is not. I reviewed it just enough to say, oh, this is what it looks like when a change happens to this file. So I could even add some checks to make sure that that file is updated whenever there's a code change. Garage Pro. This thing is killing me right now. I wonder if I fixed that issue with the URL not having the right. I'm going to production. If I come over here, hold on, I don't even see. Mm, So I'm back inside of the production AWS account. I want to make sure that I'm able to sign in a user and get to the dashboard with no issues. I should not be having issues right now getting to the dashboard. This is unacceptable. Like, for real. Properties. Bucket hosting. Take me to the root. Okay. Okay, we got past here. So create company is not working inside of production, but inside of dev. Let me see. If I go to Postman, create company in production, 400, and I have everything in there. And then in development, create company is a 201. So I'm assuming there is some difference, some deviance between production and development. So my answer for that is to say, go to, I'll just go here directly to management system API. I'm gonna go to this repo and deploy main into production. Deploy API. Doesn't tell me what's going on, so I just have to deploy, see the logs again for myself. deployed to production worked. It needs to tell me that. It doesn't say which environment was deployed to. That's not horrible, but I don't love that. I don't love that at all. I should know where this code was deployed. Yeah, doesn't say anything about development or production. All right, I know I selected production. So I know for the most part, I'm very confident that it deployed to production. So I'm going to deploy to development now. And, oh, so maybe the other one could have set it there, deploying to development. Nah, it doesn't say it. Shows me the file at that time, but I want the summary for this one. It doesn't say once it's finished. It's very interesting. All right, they both deployed. Okay, this was the API. Both are deployed. Now I'm going to run the same request in development. See if it works. All right. Now I'm going to run that same request in production and see if it works. All right, production is still not working. I'm gonna check the logs in production and see if those will tell me anything important or useful. CloudWatch. At some point I want to set up Datadog. I just know companies use it. It might be cool to check out. That's all. It's not like super important to do now. Or it's not a pressing matter. It's just something I'm curious about. Alright, 30. 30. Oh, it's from Stripe. Request error from Stripe status. Yeah, that's crazy. They're breaking my code is out of pocket. Damn. These are real responsibilities, y'all. Nah, no cap. These are real responsibilities. I gotta be extremely careful about the companies I choose to do business with. I'm gonna go back over here. I wanna go on production. And I'm going to check out Cognito, delete that user, and try this Check again. The funny part is now. I wonder what disabling cache means in here. Does it do it for just this request or what? What? I bet. Onboarding. Coming over here. Perfect. Beautiful. 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 Okay. We're in here now. So. Mm. I think I need to update the base URL to be this with the hashtag inside of the string. Or not even that. Yeah, I'll keep the hashtag and everything else after that. What if I go here? What if that was it? Okay. Yeah, that shit long as hell. I definitely gotta fix this. First thing I can do is close this. that's complete. The issue wasn't in my API. Well, yeah, it wasn't in the API, but I saw the error coming from the API. I'm gonna close this out also. And all right, now that I'm able to create my account, I basically saw a few different things I didn't like. Or I need to do this. Update the payment confirmation webhook in Stripe account. Yeah, I'll do this. Then I want to update the domain base URL for toll management system UI. Be more user friendly. Open. If I include it inside of the path name, then I won't have to update all of the functions to specify that you need to add this hashtag. Because it's more like the domain than it is a path parameter, because it's required for every page. In order to get to any page, you have to put this hashtag into the URL. So I might as well make that easier. Or not even or. Update the environment var to be the domain in the GitHub Action environment for development and production, and update the code repo to append this string to the base URL in the configuration. Well, during app startup. During the app startup. So that it is always present. For the links in the app to function properly. Production needs to have it. It could mail from roaditechnologies.com. Turn that shit off. dashboard. Update the GitHub Action environment vars variables to match the environment specific URLs. Specify the URL that will be used. Boom, boom, boom. So the interesting part is I'm going to use this URL or this URL actually right now, but production development would use this one. In development, yeah, public bucket. I need to put development in there, and I said I was gonna use a UUID so I could specify which exactly. I need the exact one. I want to know which version of the code went to this environment, whatever the environment is. So we could even have a development with a UUID that matches the production UUID. And we actually should, because we should be able to see very clearly that this code in development is the same code that's in production. And there are other controls that we could put in place to make sure we have that clarity and accuracy, but we need to have it somehow. All right, going into the code. GL. Okay, and then inside of our lib, we have our utilities. No, it may be our service configurations. From environment API base URL. String dot from environment plus yeah, I think that's fine. I wonder if I can test this locally. Let me try something. All right, no, this is wrong anyway. Oops. Oopsies. This is wrong. I don't need it here at all. I need it over here, the domain base URL. UI base URL. Basically, UI base URL. I want to update this. Replace refactor, find in files. Replace in files. Change it to UI base URL. UI base URL. Domain base URL, UI base URL, refactor, rename, UI base URL. Okay, yeah, it updated it. Okay. I'm gonna say UI base URL. Then we're going to come over here. All right, we're gonna see if I can deploy directly to development. I gotta see if I have a user in there anyway. Right. this is development. Okay, so I do have a user. Mm-hmm. Development, I updated the environment variable and I pushed it up. And I pushed it up. Yeah, I definitely pushed it up. The code should be deployed right now. I want to go in here and find out exactly why Yeah, I want to know exactly why my URL is not showing up the way I expect it to. So inside of the bucket in the development environment, I should see something. That's not accurate. Damn, my shit glitching. It's glitching. Hold on. I'm about to start more resources. Or consume more resources, actually. Mhm. Beautiful. Okay, we got that going. So I'll close this up. I'm gonna give it a minute, then see how long it takes to refresh the cache. Perfect. Okay, okay. Alright, I'm gonna call that a day then. Close this ticket. Update the base URL for the Toe Pro system. Yeah. Next time I get on, it's going to be more of an in-depth test to get this to work, because now we're talking about an external service and my API now running inside of a cloud SaaS solution. So I've tested it locally using the Stripe CLI to pipe any messages to my local API, and I was able to see the database get updated. So we're gonna have to do the same thing, just in a more abstract environment. But that's really all I have for today, at least for right now. Gotta go handle some other business. But you can see that a lot of the job as an engineer is really going to be just practicing and spending time debugging your code. I went through a few errors that I was seeing today, and they all kind of originated from there being differences in some assumptions. I'll say more assumptions. Not even so much differences between development and production, because I was able to test that everything was the same. I even deployed the same code. One difference between production and development was my Stripe account having not been set up for production to work the way it was supposed to work. The other issue was more not a difference because the same problem occurred in development and production. It was just I think I would call that a bug. It was some behavior that it's not that it was unexpected if you knew and understood how Flutter and single page applications worked. It's unexpected in the sense that when I first created the solution, I hadn't thought about fixing that. And so I don't even think it was working locally to open up the page. I might have already been updating the URL to make it work and test that. So this was like I had to fix that debt before I shipped it to production and tried to make someone else update the URL directly as if they knew what URL they needed to get to. We want to make it very easy and no friction as they use our apps. With all that being said, I'm heading out of here.